that is a very rich and wonderful place to go. So I thought I'd come back briefly and just say, anyone have any new seat in your lives that you want to mention? Um, who was the role model? Who guided you even when they weren't around? Who were the seat? And if anyone, okay, Merle.
My parents and my grandparents, and they're not around, but every time something happens, I think about what would they be saying? How would they guide us?
Super. Okay. Do we have any others? Any
I had the same thing. My parents,
excuse me,
grandparents.
Donna,
Okay.
wait
Yes.
to be called upon. Okay.
That's okay.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other? Okay, Helena, you're muted. You're muted. You are still muted. No, you are muted. Oh, it's a shame. It's a shame. Can't hear you. Oh, okay, I missed that, and that's my loss. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Donna.
My family, my grandparents, like Merle said, in history, and my late husband, Moshe, my children, and my sweetheart, and the temple. Those are you and Risa. Everybody now in my life is a temple. That's all I have to say.
That's great. Anyone else want to come up with seat? Uh, who are the models? Herman.
As you are aware of, I just spent 3 months in the hospital. And it's amazing how many people from Temple Akiba came to my aid. They are my tzitzit.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else have a seat that you want to offer? Helen is back in. I'm glad. Uh, anyone else have it? Mara.
I have a wonderful meditation teacher who is of French ancestry and lives in Israel. And she really keeps me grounded in terms of um, understanding how to make my way through this world the way it is.
Beautiful. Thank you. Another one or two, and then we're going to stop. Anyone else want to offer a seat?
Rabbi, forgive me, but my children, I didn't mention it, but they're number one. They always inspire me.
Anyone else have something to offer about seat? Okay, we can let it go. By the way, if you really do have seat in your lives, make sure you thank them. Take the occasion now that you're remembering what their role is. Make sure you thank them. Okay, next, calendar. Wednesday, July 10th is current events. And I have to tell you that as of July 6th, I have not prepared my lesson plan because everything is changing so quickly that we have no idea what the current events is going to be. But do join us. All kinds of things are possible. July 15th, the Republican National Convention. And I am among those few addicted, at least to the major speeches. I will be attached to my computer, listening, just listening. Okay. Cindy, anything coming up with the sisterhood?
We have the honey sales now. It's in the weekly. They're beautiful gifts to send to friends and family. It's a jar of honey nicely wrapped, wishing them a happy Rosh Hashanah, a sweet year. And it's just, I encourage people to send them if you can.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You mentioned Rosh Hashanah. It's like it's coming.
Not till October.
Oh, it is. Larry David was on television this morning at 8 o'clock, and he was asked what were some of the worst things people can say to him. One was happy birthday. Absolutely, he will not respond to anyone who says that to him. And the other one was Happy New Year. And he said, I'm Jewish. I get this twice. And I have no need of you wishing me this. Leave me alone. I thought that was a nice way to start the morning. Okay, Jim is not here, I believe. Okay, so I see Mara and Harv, Steve, good Shabbos, Merle, Diane. Hi, Diane. Barbara. There's Barbara. Good Shabbos. Hi, Kevin. Shabbat Shalom. Barbara Levin. Cindy said hi. Carol Seidman, you're not visible, but you're present. And Barbara Dischler, Herman Barnathan. How are you feeling, Herman? What is your status?
My status is getting better every day, Rabbi, and thank you for asking.
Baruch Hashem. Great. Natalie, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Marina, Shabbat Shalom. Tamara, Shabbat Shalom. How are you? Yeah. I got your note about leaving early. And when you leave, we will talk about you. So, that just is a good opportunity.
I love you, Stanley.
Zax is there. Shabbat Shalom. Fern, very good to see you, Fern. Hi. Shabbat Shalom. Karen Sarachik. Hi, Karen. Hi,
Shabbat
Karen.
Shalom.
Oh, great to hear your voice. Good. Risa, Shabbat Shalom. Aviva, Shabbat Shalom. I'm not going to brag, but we had the most glorious vegan Chinese Shabbos dinner at Aviva's last night. Fresh chalot, everything. And Aviva, it was great. I should have taken home more of that sauce, whatever it was. I loved it.
It was bulgogi sauce. No, it wasn't?
Yeah.
Never mind. I thought it was like soy and stuff. Anyway, but it was not vegan because we definitely served you chicken.
It was definitely what?
Not vegan. We served you chicken.
Oh my God, I'm contaminated. Okay. I thought I could trust Maya. Okay, Brad, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Helena, Shabbat Shalom. Let's see, Patty. Patty, you had a
That's me.
question?
Rabbi, that's me. That's Susie. I'm at Patty's house. Can you hear me?
I can. So you're definitely not Patty?
No, I'm Susie, but we don't know how to get my picture up there. It's okay. She's letting me use her computer. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom, Patty. Oops, Susie. Okay, that's cool. I think, wait, let's see what we have here. Nice group today. Howard, Shabbat Shalom. And there's that one person identified as iPhone. Shabbat Shalom, Ms. iPhone. Okay, now, I am going to go back because I'm entitled. At my age, I can reminisce. So I'm into reminiscing. This Shabbat has a special haftarah called Machar Chodesh. Please do not bother to remember this. It is not important to anyone but me. but this was my bar mitzvah haftarah. And at age of 13, I was a square person, rather large in every direction. And I stood up there and said, Vayomer lo Yehonatan machar chodesh. And I became a bar mitzvah with this haftarah. So I saw that it popped up, and I was taken back to the good old days. Checking in. Anyone else with anything else to check in or to share? Tamara, we will not say anything unpleasant when you're off. Trust us. We couldn't even think of anything. But okay. Anyone have something? Anyone have something you'd like to share? Something in your life, your family, good things, hopefully. Nothing, no need to check in. That is great. Okay. You know that one of the reasons why I love teaching this session, this group, this whatever, not only is because I love you and because you are the most incredible people I have ever studied with, and I will defend that statement to the end of the days. You are incredible. But beside that, every week when I do preparation, I encounter something which I had never thought about before. It doesn't mean that other people haven't thought of it, but I haven't. And so I was thinking about the book of Numbers, Bamidbar, last night, and how God, in God's infinite wisdom, chose to have the book of Numbers read during this political season in the United States. And I just, it's one of the ongoing miracles of Jewish life. The book of Numbers talks about leadership all over the place. In many ways, it's fair to say that the book of Numbers is devoted to a study of leadership, a study of leadership. And if you, let's see, what did I do here? I did a little bit of a list, but a list, leadership. So there's Korach, who is in this week's Sedra, and the Sedra is named after Korach. We'll get to Korach. And there's Balaam. Remember Balaam? We'll get to Balaam next week in the talking donkey, and we'll get to that. And the Kohanim, and the leadership of the Kohanim, and Miriam and Aaron, and how they misplayed their leadership. And Moses, how Moses had to deal with enormous challenges to his role in the midst of the people. Week after week after week, the common thread holding the book of Numbers together is leadership. And I didn't choose it, I didn't make it, but it's kind of interesting. Now, can somebody tell me who Korach was? Korach. Who was Korach? Korach going once? Korach, come on.
Very, very ambitious man.
Herman, was that you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. An ambitious man. Cindy.
He was a Levite who challenged Moses's authority.
He was a member of the priestly family who challenged Moses' authority and challenged the authority of all the other priests as well. And when he says to Moses, you take too much upon yourself. Have we ever said that about a leader? You take too much upon yourself? Of course. And so it happened, and he did that. So what happened now? Now, Korach was a cousin of Moses. He had two co-conspirators. By the way, we don't really know, maybe we do, the story of Korach is really two stories, and they've been blended together. And Datan and Aviram, the other two conspirators, may have been borrowed from another story. And the editor, when they put the center together, made it all one. Unfortunately, the editor left a few footprints of the change. So when you look at it, you have a little bit of trouble figuring out whether this is just Korach, Datan, and Aviram, and so forth. Why do you set yourselves apart? And tell me, folks, what was Korach's end? How did he end up? Okay, Cindy, you're giving me a downward. I
Way
get
down.
yeah, like this.
Ron. Well, he and all his family and possessions were swallowed up by the earth.
Okay, swallowed up by the earth. Fire devoured all of the followers. It was pretty messy. And Korach was killed, right? No,
No?
no. It to put it simply, Korach still walks among us. According to the rabbis, Korach went down into Sheol, where he stands at the gateway, and he rebukes people coming in by saying, "Why didn't you learn from me?" So Korach lingers on in the Midrash. This is not Torah, but lingers on in the Midrash. He does that. And also, if you want to hear Korach, all you need to do is find a crevice in the earth. It's like something left behind by an earthquake. And if you bend down and put your ear to the earth, you can hear Korach rebuking us for our failures. So Korach is one of those who apparently, at least in the Midrash, did not die. Then, in the Sedra, Moses and Aaron had to do one determinative miracle. Anyone know what that miracle was? Done in the Sedra. A leader of each tribe was told to take a staff and stick the staff into the ground. Moses and Aaron had a single staff, and the others had their staffs. And the next morning, Moses and Aaron's staff blossomed. So that was definitive proof that they are the chosen ones of God. What's this all about? I said it's about leadership. What lessons do we take out of the Sedra dealing with Korach? What lessons? What lessons? What lessons? I know the answer because I wrote it down. Number one, the Israelites were camped in a definite order around the tabernacle. It was a square, and 3, 6, 9, 12 gathered around, camped around the tabernacle. And the rabbis say, not with any proof that I'm aware of, but who needs proof? The rabbis said, those who were the followers of Korach were the tribes nearest to Korach in that arrangement. Give me a moral lesson from that. The people who were the closest followers of the rebellion were those who lived next door. Okay, try to help me with this. There's a lesson. What's the lesson? Choose your neighborhood well. Yes. Donna?
Be careful who you associate with, who you follow.
Thank you. Give me a lesson about neighborhood. All right, I'm going to try to do this. Be wary of those among whom you live. You may accept what they have to say unthinkingly, without challenge. That's a lesson for today. Whole communities have chosen to follow a given leader or to follow a given myth or to follow a given lie. And it's easier to get sucked up by people you're closest with. As in, everybody's doing it, and you know that everyone is not doing it, but everyone you know is. Be wary of the people with whom you are close, that you don't intuitively absorb their values. It's not in the Torah. The rabbis found it. I like it. I like that. Okay? That works. Okay. Then number 2. Korach didn't get the promotion he wanted. He didn't get the political victory he wanted. So what did Korach do? He turned it into a matter of principle that the people who were in charge of handing out the promotions are corrupt, lying, deceiving, etc. And it had nothing to do with Korach. His loss of a promotion had everything to do with those people out there who just don't get it. Have you ever heard that before? Come on.
Right
Have
now.
you? Have you ever? Where? Where have you heard that before? Where have you heard that? Every day in the news. This happens because these people are mean, corrupt, angry, deceitful, criminal, so forth. And people, there's a good psychological word, and I'm not coming up with it. People deflect from their own weakness to blaming others for their corruption.
Rejection.
I see Merle.
I just want to say it's not just what we see in what's going on in the world, but this can happen with family as well, or people that we think are dear friends. I mean, we've had an ongoing situation with a relative that hasn't stopped. He died, he passed away, and it still hasn't stopped. It's an everyday occurrence, unfortunately.
Yes. Yes. And we deflect onto others and make them evil. Fern.
I think psychologically it has something to do with projecting one's own flaws and so on onto and seeing them as existing in other people. And it also has pieces of cognitive dissonance, which is when you want to like somebody or you want to believe somebody, being shown something else creates an enormous amount of internal tension, and it's called cognitive dissonance. So you can't believe it because it doesn't fit with liking them.
I'm going to use a weird example. So many members within the Reform community beat up on Chabad, and they make Chabad into an evil force. It is a force with which I totally disagree, but to consider them an enemy is just a way of deflecting from our own weakness in handling the challenges of Jewish life. We do that. And I think to our disfavor, we do that. Okay. I had Howard. Howard, yes.
The Korahites are mentioned in quite a few of a group of the Psalms, which date to a much later period. Which does that indicate that, although it might be suppressed, that the Korahites actually are among us, or at least they were among us 2,500 years ago? It wasn't just Korach, but his followers were maybe very influential and important, but we don't know exactly what they were doing, or we don't know the details, but they're certainly mentioned.
Korach is every bit as present today as Korach was before. Yes. Anyone else? Anyone else?
I have my hand up, Rabbi.
Okay, go ahead.
I would pertain to what you're talking about, internalizing what Vern said. We have to look at, like, example, you and Rabbi Leader, you don't gossip in this temple. You don't slander people. And I don't see that going on at Wilshire Boulevard Temple at all. I feel so refreshed when I come there. So much love. So what we do, talking about this problem that you're talking, this issue, if we look at ourselves and we know that we're beautiful, we love others, we project love and we receive love. Like
Okay.
Rabbi Leader says, Rabbi Leader says, I don't worry about nothing but my family and the ones I love and go fishing. We can't internalize all this craziness.
Okay, Donna.
I'm just saying.
By the way, there is a standard thing. Have you ever heard it? Oh, we go to Temple X. Let's say Temple Akiba, right? For Herman's sake, go to Temple Akiba. That is the warmest, most caring, loving, whatever it is. They're good people, right? And other people walk away because they have no feeling there. It's cold. They don't get touched. The same thing goes with Wilshire. The same thing goes. How could the same temple be filled with warm and caring people and cold and indifferent people?
I don't get it there. I don't feel that.
Hold it. How could that possibly be? And the variable isn't the other person. The variable is you. And in some settings, you can make contacts and become an easy part of a community. And in other settings, it's cold and unfeeling. And when you say that to the old timers in the cold and unfeeling place, they don't know what you're talking about because the place is warm and supportive.
Stanley, I agree, but I get love everywhere I go.
Okay. So we deflect. We do that. Then I have to come up with the most important use of Korach in all of Jewish morality. Jewish tradition sanctifies disagreement. You know that. We disagree. Part of that is kind of an implicit democratic thing, my voice and your voice. Part of it is the rabbis sitting around a table and disagreeing over the meaning of a text. Part of it is this kosher or not kosher? Rabbi X, Rabbi Y, different answers. Is this an authentic teaching? Yes, no. We differ with each other. Differing in Jewish life is a blessing, not a curse. Where is the curse in differing? Where do we find a curse in disagreeing with other people? Where is that? Steve.
It's when you're arguing for your own, I don't know, benefit or aggrandizement rather than an argument for the sake of what's right and holy.
Beautiful. I'm sorry, I agree with you. The language, if you could learn this phrase, it's such a great phrase. L'shem shamayim. For the sake of heaven, for the sake of God. What matters in our disagreement is why we are disagreeing. What do we hope to achieve? If the goal is l'shem shamayim, then that disagreement is a worthwhile disagreement. It should be celebrated. Tamara is saying, for the sake of, what is this here?
Heaven.
Oh, here, for the sake of heaven, l'shem shamayim, for the sake of heaven. Can you give me a decent contemporary example when severe disagreements are l'shem shamayim? A contemporary example in the general world, not just Jewish, whatever, when disagreement is l'shem shamayim. Okay, Mara?
I think an example would be some Jews who are protesting with the pro-Palestinian movement because they truly believe that one should have compassion for anyone who suffers.
You mean I should look at the possibility that some of the Jewish kids who are siding with the Palestinian cause are doing it l'shem shamayim? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that they are doing it for the Palestinian cause. I am saying that they are doing it because they see any person who is suffering as worthy of support. I think those two things are very different. I'm not saying I agree with them, but I can understand their position.
May I thank you for that example. I think that is I'm speaking just for me. I totally reject the approach of some of these kids, but some of them are doing it l'shem shamayim, as they understand it, l'shem shamayim. And we have to be careful how we criticize people with whom we fully disagree. Maybe they are saying things for the right purpose, even though we may disagree with their approach. Is that scary? That's a little scary. Steve. Steve, I thought you had your hand up. I'm sorry. Okay. Patty McDonough. No, Susie. I'm sorry.
did. I just had to hit my. What I was going to say, though, with respect to what Mara said, is I would agree if it stopped there, but if you actually listen to those very kids speak, I'm not sure it applies to more than one or two, because they then go on to say Hamas can do no wrong, and they, cheer Hamas's activity. And that's not, and if you think it's because everybody who suffers deserves your support, that's not everybody anymore. And so I'm not sure there are a whole bunch of people that would really fit into that category.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that. And Mara, I agree with you. I'm sorry, Steve. I'm good. Okay, Susie.
I think that, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hey, I'm so happy. This is my friend Patty's computer. It's better than mine. I think that we are surrounded now with Shem Shemaiah. I think that this era, every place, everything in the current events, from a stand on abortion to choosing a candidate to everything we read in the newspaper, and I find it confusing. I find it difficult to live with, because everybody that has a different, shall I say, opinion or has more facts than I do, I find it hard to hold my own, because I value other people's opinions, and I find it a confusing time to be in the political and natural milieu of life.
I think that what we're trying to say here, Susie, is that in the midst of very strongly held disagreements, if we can at least tease out some of the disagreements which are L'Shem Shemayim.
Right, yes.
And that may not give us the right answer, but at least we are freed up from challenging other people's motives. Many times the motives are corrupt. I'm there. I get that. But sometimes people are honestly struggling and come up with an answer radically different from our own.
Right, I agree.
The text of Korah, as the rabbis understood it, wants us to know that some of the people with whom we profoundly disagree are disagreeing L'Shem Shemayim. Okay, Aviva, thank you.
Do they know that? Do these
One second. I should stop saying kids when describing a community people disagree. Disagreement is not limited to age, ignorance, or generation. I accept your criticism, and I know, Aviva, it was L'Shem Shemayim. Okay, so thank you. Yes, I will be very careful about that. Howard, then Fern.
I'm thinking that I don't really totally agree with this idea. When I try to extend it, let's extend it. Let's say to Stalin, the communist regime under Stalin. They were liberating the people who were downtrodden, and they were providing justice for the world. They were fighting for freedom. Or let's go back to American history. The slave owners in the South, they were upholding God's doctrine about how the races should be separated. So I don't really see it.
Wait, yeah, mute. You're on mute. Get back. DJ, get back.
Okay, Howard, that's a very powerful disagreement. I see, I don't want to answer it. Fern?
Well, in a more, perhaps more trite, because it's a common expression, I'm more or less agreeing with Howard that I think the expression that's used is the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and is the opposite really of what you're saying. And I'm more apt to believe that.
You know, I think, and this is really, it's Fern, it's Howard's. The question is a really good question. Do you think that we deal with people with a greater chance of resolving conflict if sometimes we can come to believe that as wrong as they are trying to serve not what they think is best, but let's say, I don't want to call it divine truth, but a higher morality. And if their approach to trying to find the higher morality leads them into a miserable, unethical behavior pattern, it's easier sometimes when we can deal with them through their motives and not simply in the content of the disagreement.
It may be easier, but it feels unethical on when the topic is very significant and when the good intentions lead to very, very bad actions.
I agree with Fern.
Fern, moral philosophy is a really tough field. It is a really tough field. And I don't, God forbid the comparisons, but did the Stalinists and Nazis believe that what they were doing were things in pursuit of a better world? Did they believe that?
Yes.
I
People
think they
convince
did.
themselves of that.
I think they did. And that's a desperately important challenge. I don't want to resolve it. It's sort of because I can't. Steve.
I think it's harder if you try to acknowledge they think it's for a higher purpose. And I'm sure Vern, as a mediator, can appreciate this, but if you think abortion is killing a life and it's absolutely evil, there's nothing to negotiate or talk about. Whereas at least if everybody acknowledges self-interest is at stake, you can sometimes reach compromises.
Compromise and abdication.
Thank you. Okay, Howard, you have your hand still up, yes?
What? I didn't hear Fern.
I think that there's a difference between compromise and abdication, and it depends on the nature of the issue. Not everything is compromisable. One's principles are not necessarily compromisable. You may find a way to accommodate different principles, but principles are principles.
That's exactly my point, that when you're talking at the level where it is a principle or a firm belief, you cannot deal with it. Whereas sometimes if you recognize two people are being greedy and that's all that's at stake, you can't.
Okay.
Fascinating.
I feel like it's actually, I think of it as a slightly more complex situation typically, where the pattern is you have some people or a person who is a sociopath, a psychopath, a criminal, and they come up with, they're doing everything for themselves and nothing for anyone else. But then they say, well, let's hang this on oh, liberating women, or we'll hang it on free speech. And then you have a large number of potential followers who don't really know too much, but they were taught morality, and they say, oh, free speech, I'm for that. And then they get they become followers of these psychopaths. And I think that's the pattern. And then I think there are some followers of some causes. The thing to do is not to negotiate with them, or to understand their point of view, or it's to put them in jail, it's to get them out of the system. It's necessary to fight a war against them and kill them.
It's very interesting. I studied this topic for a full 8-week summer at the Hartman Institute. I have a whole big book on L'Shem Shamayim. And you're coming up with very important challenges. And I need to think about it. I do believe, pardon?
I don't know that much about the output of the Hartman Institute, but I have watched a bunch of their videos and read stuff they wrote. And I think that they are certainly the target population for people who are interested in understanding the other side and sitting down and negotiating with your enemy.
They talk about you can't get anywhere in dealing with an opponent if you reject their motives. Yeah. It's not the details. Sure. If you reject the motives. And I think that's what they were saying. And sometimes it's worth tomorrow. I think we just witnessed a dispute for the sake of heaven. Thank you, my teacher. Yes, yes. Yes. And I'm trying to deal with this. I still believe that the rabbis believed that in disagreeing with someone, if you don't question their motives and you can share the vision that they want to achieve, then the disagreement is reduced to how do you get there. And I would much rather debate how do we get there than you're just evil. I reject your motives. If we can find, if I sound chaotic and incoherent, it's in the spirit of the times. If I can disagree with someone, but know and trust that they are trying to achieve the moral high ground, and the difference isn't in what they want to achieve, but in how they want to achieve it, that's already step one in providing a means for coexistence. I think I've said something that I actually now believe. Okay, Zax.
I wanted to well, I'll never that whole description of slavery was brand new to me, but I wanted to address that when you said it, I took it to mean that we can agree to disagree. And that's how I think of Judaism, that it's this place where people can have different opinions and argue about them, but at the end of the day, you still respect one another. And so when I take that further, I take it to, we have to take slavery out of here, but I take it to the founding fathers and the whole Constitution, and that we are creating a nation where you might be religious, you might not be religious, that you have all of these differences and all types of people coming together and from different countries and different beliefs, but that we are, and we'll probably never agree on all of those things, but that we are trying to create this one nation that we can all live in together. And so that's how I think about it.
This is just excellent. Thank you, Zax. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I have many things left to do, but I'm not going to be able to let go of L'Shem Shemayim because of the questions you raised. I'm still standing with it, but I think it's clarified. By the way, Korach didn't get his expected promotion and 15,000 people died. Okay? There was no L'Shem Shemayim. He wanted his promotion. He didn't care how many people got killed in the process because he wanted the promotion. That's not L'Shem Shemayim. Okay? Now, I want to toss in there is a great Bible scholar, Jewish Bible scholar named James Kugel. James Kugel is a good one. Tamara, are you okay with that statement? Kugel, despite his last name, which stops me always, but he's a really insightful person. He drew my attention to something, and with this, we're going to be closing out in our Sedra. That struck me as really important. Kugel said, did you ever notice that Jewish law prohibits a mixing of linen and wool? Are you aware of that requirement? That is a long-standing thing. For whatever the reasons were initially, linen and wool are not to be put together.
Except that the high priest wore linen and wool.
Thank you. You came up with one. I don't like it when I prepare and you grab my answers. Okay. Yeah, and someplace else, which is in this Sedra too. The tzitzit. The tzitzit create a situation in which linen and wool are mixed. And yet, mixing linen and wool is forbidden. And Kugel says that's such an important lesson because, yeah, linen and wool mix, totally forbidden. Linen and wool mix, however, in tzitzit, commanded, not just permitted. And that disjuncture is one of the things we have to learn to live with in life. When we encounter people, Kugel said, who are absolutists, this is the rule and forever the rule, there can be no exception. That's a very dangerous position, whatever the rule is. Kugel says the law of tzitzit is here to tell us that sometimes we have to agree to live with incongruity. Sometimes we just have to live with, I know this is the rule and this is the rule, and they conflict. And sometimes the answer to that is yes. That's not something that's easy for kids. Aviva, I'm just talking about little kids. It's not easy for kids to cope with. Should be more black and white. But it's not. And I want to say to you that some of the variations on don't kill, don't murder fall into that category. There are times when it is morally correct to violate the morally forbidden. The Talmud has a phrase for that. Et la'asot heferu Toratecha. Sometimes when the need to act is so great because our norms are being destroyed, then it's a mitzvah to oppose. Don't stand quietly by. We have to end here. I want to thank you, first of all, for the incredible challenges, which will give me a migraine. And we have to learn. Let's see if I can end this way. Sometimes a revolution is meant to improve and change the system. And that's a revolution, l'shem shamayim. And we'll come back to this because you were great. You were great. We're going to go now to Kaddish. I've got to stop thinking about our conversation and get into Kaddish. Those who have passed away during the past month, Minerva Kravoy, Andy Natker, Arnie Nelson, Zachary Seth, Marvin Steinberg, Alice Vogel, and the following, the anniversaries whose deaths have occurred this week. Eugene Abrams, Beatrice K. Abramsky, Shimon Naftalion, Steve Alexander, Marion Arno, Robin Rose Artiaga, Peter Bach, Harold Band, Alan Barbaco, Arnold Byler, Anat Ben Ishai, Teresa Benzwai, Eileen Jane Burkus, Albert Berg, David Cantor, Irving Cheslaw, Gladys Cohn, Louise Creamer, Richard Allen Ehrman, Carl Enoff, Maurice Eskowitz, Frida Fine, Beth Lisa Feldman, Shirley Fenton, Ellen Flanagan, Malcolm Fleischer, Theodore Flesch, Dorothy Jean Fox, May Fox, Blanche Friedman, Matthew Gantz, Marion Gardner, Raymond Gertz, Joseph Goldberg, Edith Goldfein, Michael Goldstein. Miriam Goodman, Abraham Gottfried, Edward Gottlieb, Minnie Grant, Evelyn Greenbaum, Elise Greenstein, Milton Handelman, David Harrow, J. Daniel Hertz, Miriam Herzog, Lita Hilliard, Minna Horowitz, Monroe Eisen, Sylvia Jacobson, Gilbert Kaplan, Regina Karolinski, Meyer Katan, Thomas Klein, Nasir Cohenzada, Jess Kuden, Alan Kurtzman, Leon Lapidis, Harry Luxonetta, Peter Leibowitz, Jeanette Levin, Louise Rose Levine, Sidney Lewine, Milton Lewis, Mildred Lewis, Abe London, Sonny Lowy, Louise Martin, Barbara Melnick, Joseph Marini, Franklin Meserve, Eric David Milek, George Milder, Myrtle Mullins, Jamshidni Hooray, Lil Newman, Leonard Penn, Marion Platt, Gladys Polish, Gertrude Pollock, Isaac Mickey Pressman, Mary Redler, Gail, Maurice Feingold, Israel Ritberg, Suzanne Rocker, Lee Rockland, Rose Romick, John Rosenfield, Martin Ross, Eric Rothenberg, Dorothy Rubin, Minnie Rubin, Jacob Schwartz, Rabbi Sedway, Eugene Shaken, Herbert Shapiro, Ken Sherman, Roseanne Silverman, Ida Sandheimer, Charles Stein, Jeanette Steinsapir, Jenia Shapiro, Stanley Talpis, Natalie Tannen, Stan Tendler, Goldie Teifeld, Jerry Weintraub, Edward Weiss, Joseph Weiner, Barbara Whitland, Theodore Zola. We mentioned as well the names of those who died in defense of the United States of America, those who died in defense of the state of Israel, those who died through senseless acts of terror and horror, those who passed away but have no one who will be remembering their memory. We bear them all in mind. If you have any other names, please speak them aloud or in your hearts. We join together now. We join together now in Kaddish. Yitgadal,
Yitkada, Shmei
Shmei
Rabbah,
Rabbah,
Yalma Divra Kirute,
Yamli
Yamli Malchute,
V'chayim
V'chayim Odu Yomechon,
V'chayim
V'chayim Kol Beit
Beit
Yisrael,
Yisrael,
Ba'ala
V'zman Karev, Amen.
Amen.
Yehi Shmei Rabbah Barach Li'olam Li'olam Yitbarach V'yishtabach Ba'ar
Yitramam,
V'yitramam Naseh
Yitadar, Yitalel, Yitalal, Shemei Kudashah, Richu, Ve'elam Michal, Birchata, B'shirata, Tushvata, V'nechamata, Damiran, V'yalma, Amen.
Amen.
Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Maya,
Shemaya.
Chayim Aleinu, Yalkal Yisrael, Imru, Amen.
Amen.
Shalom B'mamav, Uyasa Shalom, Aleinu V'yalkal
Israel.
V'imru, Amen.
Amen. May God who makes peace in the high places make peace in our hearts. Make peace in our homes. Make peace among all the nations and families of earth. And let us all now say,
Amen.
Amen.
okay.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Everyone have a wonderful week.
Yeah.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye. Shabbat shalom.